Every time is a divine time, and so we need not fret because everything happens for the reason.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor, the pleasure, the privilege to bring to you a voice rings round the globe, such a voice. And not just a voice, not just a poetic talent, but a dancer, a singer, so many kinds of artists. It's an amazing, it is an embarrassment of riches to know such a fine artist. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Kemlyn Tan Bappe, a global voice. Kemlyn, how nice to see you.
Thank you so much for having me, Rick. And it's actually Bappe because it rhymes with happy, because I'm usually happy unless I'm not.
Okay. Well, then I will remember that from now on, Bappe. Okay. So you are obviously not just a global poet, but a global personage. You've traveled widely. Tell us a little bit about the young Kemlyn. When did you start writing, acting, performing, dancing, etc.?
So if any of you have ever heard about my journey, I actually am a childhood child abuse and trauma survivor. And so at a very young age, I was actually very much a select mute. I hardly ever talked, and oftentimes in social settings, you would find me under the table and hiding. If you would say that I was going to be a performer and a public personage, people have just absolutely laughed at you because she doesn't talk. And but I would say at a very early age, I had a very strong imagination, and honestly, it was a form of survival. It was my way of coping. And so I would imagine far off places and worlds that I would never know. Oftentimes I would look at magazines and dream of far off lands and places where I could escape to, where I thought it might be a little bit safer. So that was early childhood, Kemlyn. And I started really drawing first. That was my first sign of language. So I drew a lot. And hence I was a visual artist. That got me in trouble, actually, because oftentimes at school I would do caricatures of my teachers who didn't always think that my characterization was very flattering. And one of the most interesting things is that I have an interesting eye. I see, you know how impressionists like Monet, they see different colors side by side. I have that same ability. So I remember my math teacher, who should not have been teaching art. She was teaching art. And my assignment was to do a still life of a cucumber. So my teacher said, draw what you actually see. So I did. And I had purple undertones, yellows and pinks and blues. And she took my gorgeous still life drawing of my purple cucumber that was absolutely glorious. And she drew a big fat red F on top of it. And I was not upset about the F. That's a prerogative to give. But I was upset she destroyed my drawing. So this was when I was in an all-girls school in Singapore. And years later, I now have a painting hanging in the school. And in the epilogue, in the little description, I said, purple cucumbers can be purple too.
Very nice. Very nice. I had a very understanding art teacher myself, but we'll talk about that some other time. Well, you're not just a visual artist. You're a poet, you're a singer, you're a dancer. Did these other art forms blossom while you were in school, or did that come after college, after school?
Well, I always loved listening to music, and my father greeted us every morning with classical music. And we always played games like identify the instrument that you're hearing, or
Ah,
the names
wonderful.
of all the different pieces that he introduced us to. He was also an avid country western fan. So I grew up with Reba McEntire and Crystal Gale, and it was just glorious. I had a very strong musical tradition, and my father was a violinist. And as well as he played the viola, he's played the piano as well,
Wonderful.
and so yeah, music was always a part of our life. And one of the things is, as I grew up and my family matured, it's really nice to know that yes, things got better at home. My family itself was kind of like an open mic before open mics were a thing, and it's more like an atelier or salon like you would find a long time ago in during the time of the Impressionists. My mother is a wonderful cook, and so she would feed our guests and our family with delicious traditional foods from Singapore, and then after that we would adjourn into where we would sing or play the guitar or play the piano and share poetry, share our reflections. And
How
I
nice.
remember, yeah, and I even performed in my point shoes in my living room for my
Oh,
family.
how
So,
nice. How
yeah,
nice.
that's the kind of environment that I grew up with, very, very rich in the arts and expression, which is unusual
Wonderful.
for a very Asian culture. Yes.
Well, you have just blossomed and bloomed. Literally, your name is mentioned, I think, on on every continent. Maybe not Antarctica very much because they haven't seen you, but I swear every other one. Okay,
Well,
so
I'll definitely put a PSA out to the penguins and
I think
the
you should.
yes,
I
and the
think you should.
puffins. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So, you've been writing for a long time. Recently, of course, so many of us have developed contacts across the globe. Not only do you read and recite to poets across the globe, but you also produce a show, you and your brother. Talk to us a little bit about the wonderful Hughes show. Tell us about
Okay, so my production company is called Hughes Blue World because my name in Chinese is Qing, and very few people can say that word. So anyway, so it starts with a Q, and so that's why it's Hughes Blue World. Anyway, I actually, Rick, I was feeling very depressed. I got really ill in November, and I was having a really hard time getting up and finding the oomph to wake up each day. And my husband actually said to me, you know, why don't you find an open mic in Asia with your friends and start going to that, and that will get you up in the morning. And I looked around, and there was not a regular weekday open mic. And if you know that in the US, every night you can like find 3 or 4 events to go to if you would like to, but my friends, they don't have the same opportunity. So I said, oh dear, we've got to fix that. So that's where I started, between the lines. The concept is that between the lines of poetry, between geographical lines, there are so many interactions that could happen and so many possibilities. And I was lucky enough to have my brother, who was a superb artist in himself, yeah, just, multi-talented, and he was willing to co-host with me. And so I wake up every Tuesday morning, 5 a.m. my time, 8 p.m. Singapore time, and and it's wonderful. We've got a lovely contingent of people that come from Singapore, sometimes the Philippines, a nice European contingent from the UK, as well as poets who are willing to wake up, like yourself, early in the morning from East Coast to West Coast. And what a delight! I mean, just a joy to have my friends from around the world, and my parents would come in as well. So it's like the reboot of our living room atelier.
Well, having attended several of these, I can only say it's so wonderful to hear voices from across the globe coming together. And it's so interesting because on the one hand, we know that the concerns of the human heart are so similar across the globe. And at the same time, they're different. They have the different flavors of the different perspectives, different nationalities. When I talk about a home cooked meal, someone completely different in a completely different culture has a completely different idea of a home cooked meal. And you hear these threads, these charming cultural varieties. As a guy who studied anthropology, I just find it endlessly interesting, endlessly amazing. I am drunk on cultures all the time, and that you bring these wonderful people together. It's just marvelous, and it speaks so well to you. You know, you know as well as I do. There are a lot of artists that are, let's put it simply, selfish. Okay, that think of themselves first. But there are these wonderful artists who think about others, who make a space for others. And that's you. You are one of those
Thank
kind of
you.
artists. Um, we've talked about you. Enough of that. Let's talk and let's hear the voice of Kemlyn. If you would please read us a few of your poems, we would be delighted to hear them.
I have created a set for you all, especially for this time. We know that in this time, we are facing a war. And even though it's happening on the soils of Ukraine, it's our war because they are part of our global community and no one's safe. And so I've been feeling very nostalgic and feeling so, in some ways, helpless. But I sing my prayers for Ukraine. And so I would like to do a small set for you and your listeners. And I'm dedicating it to my friends in the Ukraine. Where have all the flowers gone? Long time passing. Where have all the flowers gone? Long time ago. Where have all the flowers gone? The young girls have picked them all. When will they ever learn? When will they ever learn? So that's a song by Peter, Paul, and Mary, written by Peter Seeger, of course. And it was written during a time where the world was concerned about war and our young people around the world engaging in a war that seemed so senseless. So that is the first part of my program for you. The next part is a poem that I wrote in a very strange circumstance. Last Tuesday, we had a lovely young man from Zimbabwe, right? Zumkonto, the young adopted brother of Landon Carrier, one of our lovely poets from the UK. And so after listening to Zumkonto read, I actually felt very sick that Tuesday, and I took some time off to rest. And I actually woke up with a dream at 9, and I was taken back to um, Zimbabwe. In 1993, I spent some time living in Zimbabwe and serving there as a cultural ambassador of the arts. And so I spent quite a bit of time there, and there was a wonderful experience with uh, a man who was a park ranger, Sergeant Sidakwa, in Bridge in the Matopos National Park, where he was this marvelous magic singer, and I'm going to tell his story. Where does a dream end and a memory begin? I dreamt of the lizards of Bulawayo, an ancient park ranger. Erosion streamed over his face. He cracked a toothy smile between those lips. He blew a haunting melody calling. Rainbow friends appeared, arriving in their finery from spherical boulders stacked like the end scene of a Jenga game. An iridescent kaleidoscope, they marched and danced, skin to skin, pressing to touch, weather-seasoned hands filled with treats. He called to them, the jubilants replied, Ticha Doimba, Ticha Doimba, Jubilani, Zimbabwe. My heart longed to join in the fray. Shed my sarong, slap it to the ground, roll my tongue with a shrill la 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 la. But I hesitated. The revelers played on, blind to my inertia, a tourist standing, mouth opened agape, mute, awestruck, with a camera. Now, did I get a second chance to go back to Bulawayo when I met you? And then thank you. I would like to read a poem, once again going back to regret and death. I am the breeze. I was the breeze on a summer's day. You tempered my rage with lyric. Autumn leaves like lead fell, desert winds swept them away. I cling to the memory of we, us. Heavens opened with your laughter, my giggles. Bathing in monsoon rains, I desired you to feel the same. Love lost, found, late in time. Damn, elusive love, to be lost again. I claw, fingers bloody to find my way to you, to recline my declining body next to your heart beat. When the breeze brushes your cheek, I am the final, your final summer's day kiss. And that is a sonnet dedicated to my favorite Shakespearean director, Rick Spisak. And then finally, I will end with my reprise. Where have all the flowers gone? Long time passing. Where have all the flowers gone? Long time ago. Where have all the flowers gone? They are planted in our graveyards now. When will they ever learn? When will they ever learn?
Oh, so beautiful. So very beautiful. And snuck that little tribute in there, you rascal, you. I have had the good pleasure of getting to know this woman a little bit over the last few months. And I have to say, among all the fine poets that I have had the honor to know, Kemlyn, you are an exceptional voice. And I wish you the longest life and the longest chance to share your marvelous voice, your delicate sensibilities. Just keep doing what you're doing. It's so fine, so fine. And the fact that I know you're about to travel across the globe and hold events in Asia that are global events. You are, I guess, you remain an ambassador to the cultural world, to all of us. And thank you for the great work that you do. Poets of the East has never had a lovelier and more apt guest than you, Eastern poet, global poet, Miss Kemlyn Tan Bappe. I want to thank you. You've made us all so happy.
May I say a blessing for your viewers?
My dear, we'd be honored to hear it.
We are lovable. We are capable. We are valuable. We are able to write, to sing, to speak, to paint, to draw our realities and healing into our world. So, artists, poets, children in each one of us, let us rise and speak forth our personal revolution so that we can be the balm of Gilead in a hurting world.
Thank you so, so much. And you'll be back again. I can assure you of that. You'll be back again. Thank you so much for joining us. Kemlyn, thanks from the bottom of my heart.
And thank you so much, Richard Spisak.
Bye-bye.